Hello and welcome. Today we are joined by a very special guest. He is US President Donald Trump's close aide, industrialist, donor, public speaker, and interestingly, the originator of the catchy phrase, Ab ki baar Trump Sarkar. Please welcome Mr. Shalabh Kumar, founder of the Republican Hindu Coalition and chair for 2016 Indian Americans for Trump campaign.
Thanks for inviting me on this program. I'll add a couple more things. Besides the first phrase, the president has said again in Hindi, Bharat and America, sabse achhe dost. So that is on the record.
Just to get started, Mr. Kumar, Donald Trump announced a 26% tariff on India. You were among the first few voices who said that it's a golden opportunity for India. I want to understand from you, how do you think it is a golden opportunity for India, sir?
It has to be looked in from an overall global perspective. First, the biggest, China. China is going to face 54% duty on all its products. It is the biggest exporter to the United States. $400 billion per year of manufactured goods go from China to the United States every year. Guess what will happen to those goods when it is 54% more expensive? So a lot of it is going to move. My prediction is it'll take a couple of years, but 250 or so will move to United States. But there are products, 150 billion or so, like I'm in the electronics business, so I know that very well. Out of the 400 billion, 300 billion is electronic products, like modems, like Ethernet switches, and products like that. There's a lot of products where it will be better suited for India to manufacture those, take up that slack, which is going to happen in China. Another good thing which has happened with these reciprocal tariffs is a lot of manufacturers, a lot of business owners, companies, large companies in Japan, in Taiwan, in Europe, in America, they were planning to move their operations from China to Vietnam. Vietnam was the second one. But now Vietnam now faces 46%. So that thing is now grounded. So compare that to 26% with India. And I am quite positive that President Trump and Modi and both the governments are going to come up with a bilateral agreement, maybe not necessarily by the end of this year, but certainly by the end of 2026, where the tariffs between the two countries are going to go down to zero. So now look at, from a manufacturer, from a businessman point of view, how much now leverage you have. To begin with, the labor cost in India is half to 1/3 of the Chinese labor. So you got an advantage there. You got an advantage that they're going to have a 54% and you're going to have at most 26, but more like 0 bilateral, maybe 10. So huge advantage there. India also, on top of everything, I'm a graduate of Punjab Engineering College, PEC, back in 1969, 55 years. So I know a lot of people. India has the smartest engineers, not only in hardware, in firmware, in software, a great majority in Tamil Nadu, in Chennai, in Pune, everywhere. There are so many smart engineers and entrepreneurs that could take up this opportunity and replace China as the principal manufacturer of these goods. And I'm talking about just electronics. I'm sure it's everywhere else as well. And so that's why I say this is a moment for India as important as 1991, when it broke its old methodology, old methods, and opened up the country, opened up for trade and everything, for imports, and got the technology in. This is an equally important moment. I don't think moments like that arrive that easily. I haven't seen, let's say, in 55 years in the United States. I came to the United States when I was, I'll give my age here, I was 20 years old. So I've been here 55 years. And in those 55 years, I have not seen that great, big of an opportunity. There are, of course, the President Trump and Modi, camaraderie and hugs and handshakes and all that. That takes place. That's for, let's say, perception, to create atmosphere. But the reality on the ground is extremely strong for India, Bharat, to take this opportunity and run with it.
But then that's precisely the point that I want to come to, sir, that despite the Modi and Trump bonhomie that we've seen on screen, Indians are somehow thinking that the 26% that has been imposed on India is not a sweet deal. What do you think about that? Is it really not a sweet deal? What must have gone behind, sir?
Oh, 26% as compared to all the others. Just look at that. Compared to all the others, it's a lot less. And the United States right now is not engaged with any other country. Is it engaged with Vietnam? Is it engaged with China on BTA, bilateral trade agreement? Okay, so with Mexico, Canada, no, it's not engaged in those bilateral trade agreements. So this is actually a phenomenal happening, which is just took place on April 2nd for Bharat. And I watch a fair number of your think tanks in India. Particularly, I constantly watch as much as I can Major Gaurav Arya's program, which is Chanakya Dialogue. So I actually watched it last night. He had a very good, balanced view. I don't agree with everything what he says, but he says, well, he's not a manufacturer. He's not an engineer. He doesn't know from that standpoint, but you take it from me. But he also was saying the same thing. This is, as compared to all the other countries, this is a pretty good thing for Bharat.
Can you put this in numbers for us, sir? I want to understand from you, over the next few years, how is this moment that you're saying as a golden moment going to define India's position as the Vishwaguru, as one of the topmost economies in global order? How is this moment, that golden moment that you're talking about, sir?
If Modi administration takes the initiative, and also we are there in the US, work from the US point of view. If the administrations work together and incentivize this entire thing, for example, let me just put the numbers. It's quite possible that we could freeze China to 18 trillion, to maybe 1%, 2% GDP growth. India's, even though far behind right now, $2.53 trillion. I said $18 trillion. China is 18. India is about 3 trillion. And its growth rate could go double digit with what is just happened with this golden moment, because let's say huge exports to United States. Then on top of that, the same structure will export to EU, to rest of Asia. So India could become the global manufacturer like China had become behind the United States of America. The United States of America first, India second. In terms of overall economy, let's look at 2047. That's the aspiration of India, 100 years. Let's look at India to be the number 2 economy by 1947 and not third economy. If we are able to freeze China to where it's at and transfer all that to India. Now, there's another point I really want to make in here. If I was to ask you, I'm not sure if you would know the answer to this, but I'll ask you anyway. Since I know the electronics industry really well, okay, because I'm an electronics engineer, China exports close to $300 billion a year of electronic goods to the United States every year. How many companies that constitutes? And what size companies there are in China who do that? You have any idea? You are maybe thinking 10, 20, 30, 50. It's 500,000 companies. 500,000 companies who do that with less than 100 employees each. That could be very easily duplicated in India. India has got smarter engineers. Let the Modi administration provide some of the capital. This doesn't require a whole lot of capital. If you are in electronics, like I am in, I'll tell you, it's a few surface mount machines. Designs are already there. I have so much confidence in Indian engineers to be able to outdo the Chinese products, take the same Chinese products, even improve those, because Indian engineers are very smart. And on top of that, not a whole lot of capital. Let India start out with 100,000 such SMEs, you call them SMEs, and grow it to 500,000 SMEs who could take this up and replace China, replace Vietnam. Okay, President Trump is not going to sit down with the with the president of the communist Vietnam and say, okay, let's have a bilateral trade agreement. It's not democratic. So, the great opportunities between U.S. and India.
Wonderful. So do you see because there are talks of bilateral trade agreement, and you're saying that India is probably the only country where the channel of discussion is still open. Do you see the tariffs going down in any way in the coming years, sir, in the near future?
If the bilateral trade agreement takes place, it's going to be probably max 10%, probably be zero. Probably bilateral trade agreement will be probably zero. And, even on all the military hardware United States wants to sell to India, that's quite possible that it could do that if India gets an opportunity to replace China as the manufacturer of the world.
Okay. Mr. Kumar, I want to in fact ask you, you're a White House insider. Could you just give us a grapevine of what actually went behind in deciding these tariffs, and what was the role that was probably played by the in this Trump and Modi bonhomie that has been going on ever since President Trump took over, in fact during his previous term as well. Could you give us a grapevine of what exactly went behind the scenes, sir?
Well, actually, with respect to the tariffs, which they come up with, how they calculate the tariffs, and then half of it, reciprocal tariffs, that is the number of people. Howard Lutnick, that's the Commerce Secretary. He played a huge role in it. And of course, Peter Navarro. and from the outside, Steve Bannon. That's where these policies came from. It's part of the mega movement, and and the other person I will add to that is Scott Bessent, Treasury Secretary. He played a significant role in coming up with this reciprocal tariff chart, and a decision to take half of it and kind of just level the playing field at least halfway. And so that's how, and of course we, myself, our company, and the Republican Hindu Coalition, the Hindu and Indian Coalition of RNC, we have been pushing very hard for two things. One, a minimum of sustained tariffs on Chinese imports of 50%. That's one we have been pushing very hard. At the same time, pushing very hard to have a bilateral trade agreement with Bharat so that the tariffs there become zero. So that's both inside the government and outside the government effort I have pointed out to you.
Can we put a timeline to the bilateral trade agreements? By when do you think it is likely to, fructify or realize?
I would like to have it by 2025, but I realize that in a way, both President Trump and Prime Minister Modi are somewhat stubborn people. So there will be some tough negotiations. And so by the end of, let's say, summer of 2026, it definitely should happen.
Okay. Mr. Kumar, one of the very visible after effects of Trump's decision is the way the global markets are reacting. In fact, Wall Street yesterday witnessed one of the biggest falls in the past 5 years. How do you want to look at that? How do you think the world is looking at this entire, the tariff war that, so to say, is likely to be triggered?
A good question. Wall Street is the one that caused the decline of the United States. If it was not Wall Street, who was just looking for cheap labor, all the manufacturing which moved out of the United States into China would not have happened. Besides, Wall Street can look only 3 months down the road, maximum a quarter. Okay, they are looking for the earnings, what the earnings they're going to report in the next quarter, and so forth. Yeah, there's going to be some supply chain disruption. So they say, oh, geez, earnings are going to decline. Yeah, may decline some, but not a whole lot. It's just like COVID timeframe. Wall Street did not predict that in the stock market will go down so much and then come back in the next 6 months to a dramatic level. So Wall Street is never right. They're just not right. They have a very short-term view, but when you take a long-term view, which, by the way, the Chinese do, so when you take a long-term view, I predict the stock market by kind of the same time frame, let's say summer 2026, maybe even as early as the end of 2025, S&P will go up to 6,600, 6,800. Now it's come down to like maybe 5,300 and so forth. I didn't watch today's numbers, but yesterday there was like almost a 4%, 5% decline, and today might be another 2-3%. It's going to reverse itself very quickly. People talk about disruption of supply chains. Look at 1980s under President Reagan. Was the United States importing anything from China? Nope. Vietnam? Nope. India? Nope. How were we functioning then? Phenomenally well. So we are going back to President Reagan 80s plus. I've always said President Trump is Reagan on steroids. And he has just demonstrated his steroids by having these reciprocal tariffs, particularly elated with the fact that Chinese goods are going to be more than 54% more expensive, and that is going to drive manufacturing back to the United States and possibly to Bharat in a major, major way.
Okay. Could you, I mean, considering the scenario that we have right now, so now we have the US, which is imposing a 34% tariff on the Chinese products and a 26% tariff on Indian products. Could you draw for us how the supply chains are going to be disrupted and how is it going to be playing up in the next about a year or 2 years, sir?
First of all, a correction on China is 54. 20 was there before, 34 got added, so it's 54%. So 54% is going to be on Chinese goods and 46% on Vietnamese goods. So it depends on what level of products. What will happen is what I call penny parts, dollar parts. They will, you could absorb 54% on them from China itself, okay? Some of it will come from Vietnam, some of it may immediately start coming from India, and more expensive, let's call it $1,000 parts in laptops and those kind of products, that there's going to be a flurry of activity in the United States that they are going to manufacture those products themselves. So there's going to be some disruption, but not a whole lot.
Just today, the Indian Minister of Commerce and Industries, Piyush Goyal, said that Indian startup ecosystem needs to focus more on, the international or global technologies, the deep tech and the semiconductors. Do you think India is ready to grab this opportunity, so to say, that this golden moment is throwing at us, sir?
Piyush is a great minister and very intelligent, very smart. I've dealt with him before. But he needs to talk to some manufacturers. Yes, semiconductors, yes. But once again, we or India, Bharatiya, they do not have to look at huge capital investments and think of, that you need like Apple or you need Teslas or you need those kind of companies, large conglomerates in India. No. Talk to some manufacturers. Talk to some tech people. Okay? Small businesses. Talk to Jayashree, proximity switch manufacturer in Pune. Okay? Talk to these small companies. What a wonderful opportunity that has been given to them, and take that up there. Focus on SME. Focus on small manufacturing. You could support them by, what do they say, single window type of a arrangement so that these people can start their businesses very quickly. Okay, no government interference, no Inspector Raj, which is a problem for India. So, India's software developed because the inspectors cannot control the software engineers sitting in their living rooms. So they become free of Inspector Raj. That's why India became the powerhouse in software. Now, just keep your inspectors away from manufacturers, small manufacturers, and let's see India flourish. So message to Piyush, control the inspectors, give lower interest rates, more capital to all the businesses who can replace Chinese 500,000 businesses.
Wonderful. That's a good dose of optimism that we're getting, sir. One question is, how do you want to respond to those who are saying that this is the beginning of a recession?
Oh, I don't think there's any chance of a recession at all. Watch what's happening in U.S. Congress. We are right now, as we speak today, Senate is working all night long to have the tax legislation. So far, the focus has been on tariffs. When the legislation comes out on decreasing the taxes on, let's say, common people, let's say there will be no taxation on Social Security benefits. There will be no taxes on tips, as well as the corporate tax rate. Well, right now, they're keeping it at 21%, but President Trump wants to decrease it to 15%. And so regulations are kind of going away anyway. And so the chances of a recession, if there is one, I mean, let's take one, it'll be a very mild, like a 3-month type of a recession. Very, very mild if there is one. I doubt it, because as soon as because this tariff chapter is over, and as soon as the investors see what's happening with taxes, what's happening with capital, because of what is going on with tariffs and all, President Trump has already secured $7 trillion of investment in the United States. If you have that much money coming in, you have wonderful legislation coming in, the chances of recession are minimal.
Okay. 5 years from now, how do you see the global order, sir? As an impact of this, in light of the tariffs, 5 years from now, how do you see the global economic order?
Well, the United States growth rate is going to become larger. It's going to become, for a developed nation, instead of 3-4%, it will become 4 to 5%. India's growth rate could go to double digit, 8 to 10%, 11%, and so forth. Chinese growth rate come down to like 2%, 3% of their GDP growth. I'm hoping 1%, or I'm hoping 0% for China. So the world order is going to react in that manner. I can also say globally, otherwise, European Union, NATO, they are going to start spending a lot more money on their own self-defense, because President Trump is finished with even allies having to support them. And, you got to pay for European defense, pay yourself. Japan, you got a lot of money. You want to defend yourself? Increase your defense budget. So that's what the global order. India, Bharat will play a very key role. And once again, you're talking 5 years. I don't look 5 years. I look 10 years, 20 years down the road. I'm looking at 1947, and it is my 2047, and it is my biggest wish that, and I'll do everything I can to make sure that India is on its way to beating the GDP of China.
Wonderful, sir. There's a lot of buzz going on around you coming to New Delhi as a U.S. ambassador. What do you want to say about that, sir? How true are they?
Well, I will just say this, okay. I'm really not actively seeking that position, because I think there are lots of other things in my life and business which are happening. I do want to remain quite active, but the administration is considering it. Steve Bannon, from the outside, he just declared that I'm the short list to become the U.S. ambassador to India. President Trump had declared several years ago that I don't care who says what, you are going to be my ambassador to India. He had declared that. And but he had also said that I'm sure you will not refuse if made that offer. Okay, so let's just put it this way: I'm willing and ready to serve my country, the United States, uh, as best as I can, and we will cross the bridge when it happens in the next couple of months.
But you're indicating that we might actually be crossing that bridge, sir.
Well, you could take whatever you want to take from my comments, but that's what I would say. Whether I'm not actively seeking, because there's a lot going on. I'm an inventor. Basically, I'm an inventor. Whether it's in electronics, I've changed the way America produces goods. Famous for the invention of French fry computer for McDonald's, and just now we are coming up with inventions that are going to change the way can industry, two-piece cans, are made. So ultra fast, 25 microsecond. I'm kind of giving a lot of technical language here. 10 microsecond to 25 microsecond response time PLS, which right now sits 100 times slower. So I'm jumping 100 times faster on response time of programmable limit switches. So a lot of stuff going on in my life and business and so forth. So I kind of have to balance all that. At the same time, I have been engaged in a mission to have U.S. and India have the greatest relationship two countries could have, and I'll try to do the best I can to make sure that continues.
Wonderful. Mr. Kumar, thank you very much. We would love to see you here in Delhi. Thank you very much for talking to us. It was lovely talking to you. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.